Hey guys, this is how we get the ACCFBB app up and running. It's three parts. Obviously the main app itself, we have the VJoy configurator, which is what we'll use to override our steering device in the game, and the hide app, which you also need to help get that process started. So overall, we use our VJoy first, get that up and running. I had to do a little bit of tweaking in Windows devices to get this to recognize as a joystick. So we load that up first, get that working. We then load the ACCFBB app and we choose our wheel from the drop down menu. In my case, the Fanatec Club Sport wheel. You know it's selected correctly when it acquires the correct device down here. So basically we get those two things up and running before we start the game. Same with the hide. We have to get that up and running and then select our wheel so that for the moment it's temporarily hidden from the game, so we can actually map everything to it. So once that's happening, this is the point when you would then load your game up. You would then come into your controls menu, map the steering device, and it should pick it up as the VJoy because we have blocked the Fanatec software in our hide app. Once that's working and it recognizes the axis, we then flick back over to the hide configurator, uncheck our steering wheel, and when we go back in, the steering is bound to VJoy, but all of our buttons are still working for the respective wheel. That then is set up. I did do a little bit of tweaking because I forgot to turn the gain down when I first did this. It was clipping a little bit, so obviously to make sure that's all set up correctly, but everything else is basically set up as per the old Fanatec settings. So that's simple as that. Now we can go into the game and see how it all works. Alright, so I've got ACCFBB up and running now. So the app has taken over the force feedback from the game. VJoy controller is emulating the steering wheel, and everything else working as is and as it should. So I've done a few laps beforehand just to make sure everything was okay and dialed in properly. These are our first few flying laps. And immediately the first thing to say is there's a lot more detail coming through the steering wheel. With the Fanatec Club Sport I'm using, always found it was quite dead, the feedback. Very, very vague, but straight away there's a lot more road lumps and bumps coming through the wheel, which is very nice to feel. Definitely inspires a lot more confidence, especially at the top of the mountain. You can actually feel what the tyres are doing now. I found that ACC always did the curbs quite well. They felt really nice, but just the general road texture was something I could never really feel. Especially on the braking was always a gripe of mine. Just straight away you can feel there's 1000% more information coming through the steering wheel. So as I said, we're on a Club Sport 2.5 wheel by Fanatec, so definitely mid-range. ACC is probably more built for direct drive wheels. That's where it seems to shine, but ACCFBB for a lot of people has definitely solved the issues for the lower and mid-range wheels. It took about 25-30 minutes to set up ACCFBB initially, so not too bad. Once it's all done and set up, it's a one-time thing. You don't have to do it each and every time. But certainly the architecture it's built off is what they use for the iRacing FFB app for that game, and that's certainly helped a lot of people in iRacing. So the base is ported that over to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Straight away you can just feel, especially on the braking, there's a lot more detail, a lot more feedback coming through the wheel. So I always found with ACC I was very much braking off the visual, picking the spot and trying to hit that time after time, not necessarily feeling what the car is doing. There's a couple of spots in particular now around the track which are always a little bit of problem parts of the circuit for me, namely the final corner coming up here into Griffin's Bend and into the cutting. I definitely feel like I can carry a little bit more speed now through there, because I can actually feel what the front tyres especially are doing. Still clipping there on the FFB. I'm still playing around with the gain within the menu. because I've basically put in a brand new controller. I did forget to turn that down from 100% when I first set everything up, and it was very, very heavy. So down to about 90% now, 89%, and I'll tweak it a little bit further as we go along, but just initial impressions are absolutely fantastic. A lot more confident over the top of the mountain there, and again, just carrying a lot more speed than what I normally would from the previous laps. I don't think it's making me any faster at the moment, but it's certainly I feel a lot more consistent, and keep in mind I've only done a handful of laps with this new FFB, and you're basically learning from scratch again, because it's just totally different to the force feedback that came with the game and what you've been used to for the last few years. You're basically relearning a lot of the quirks and nuances of the force feedback. So to be down doing for me mid to low 203s, which is basically what I was doing before, but probably felt like I was struggling to get those lap times. Now it feels a lot easier, and there's definitely potential for more, whereas in the past I could never see the potential for lap time speed. In every other game I play, R-Factor, the original Assetto Corsa Race Room, you can always tell where the lap speed needs to come from. In ACC I can never ever tell where that speed was coming from, because there's no feedback coming through the wheel for me. Whereas now, especially on the braking, it's just a lot more confidence inspiring, and I can now feel like I could get that speed that I'm missing. So it's one more lap here to go around, but yeah, first impressions are absolutely fantastic. So I do have the links for all the 3 components that you'll need to get ACCFBB up and running. I'll have those links in the video description below. And there's also plenty of videos on YouTube on how to get everything up and running. It's a fairly easy process. So it took about half an hour. It doesn't affect anything else, won't affect any other games. It's only affecting ACC. Certainly worth trying. I mean, if you're happy with FFB how it is, that's great. If you're not happy with it, certainly give this a try, and yeah, I'm sure you'll love it as much as I seem to at the moment. And certainly see it bringing the enjoyment back to driving this game, because I haven't played it for quite a while because I just could never come to terms with it. Love how it looks, love what it does, love the sound, but the FFB was just non-existent. Coming down through here, I feel a lot more confident. Not necessarily showing on the lap time at the moment, but as I said, it's very early days. Only about half a dozen to 10 laps worth of running just to get used to the new FFB. But certainly I think a lot more consistent, a lot more confidence and inspiring. I can definitely catch slides. That's probably a huge thing now as well. One thing with ACC, I was never able to catch a slide. Once the car started rotating, that was pretty much it. But had a few moments in, not necessarily these laps, but other practice laps I've done this afternoon, where I caught a slide that I don't think I would have caught previously, which is always another massive source of frustration. So that's basically it, guys. I said download it, give it a go. Pretty simple to set up, not as hard as people make out. So it doesn't affect anything else on your PC or any other games, but might be well worth a shot. Take care.